People come and they file bankruptcy because they can't afford to pay back their debt, and they're not interested in doing it. However, there is certain kinds of debts that you want to make sure that you can pay back. You don't want to, for instance, lose your car. Well, a car debt is something that gets listed in your bankruptcy petition, but it doesn't mean that you lose your car. And it doesn't even mean that you have to stop making payments. If indeed you want to keep your car, you have to continue to make payments. And there's a few different ways to do that. In Chapter 13, where we try to reorganize that debt and pay it back in accordance with a plan, we'll put in the plan how you're going to make payments and that you're going to keep your car going forward. But what I want to talk about today is reaffirmation agreements. Most bankruptcies that are filed today are Chapter 7. Chapter 7 is a type of bankruptcy where they just look to liquidate anything you have equity in. In most cases, you don't. And you just walk away without making any payments to the creditors. But in the event you want to keep your car, you have to continue to make payments. And after bankruptcy, we have to enter into a new agreement to continue that debt that would otherwise be discharged. So let me explain that for a minute. Once you file for bankruptcy, all your debts are included, and you no longer have any personal liability for any of those debts, with very few exceptions. However, if there's some property that you want to keep, such as a home or a car, you have to continue to make payments. You can't just keep things without paying for it, right? Well, after filing for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, if you have no personal obligation, why would they let you keep the vehicle? Well, they let you keep the vehicle because we make a new promise to pay a debt that would otherwise be discharged in that bankruptcy. That's a reaffirmation agreement. So when you file Chapter 7, one of the first things the creditor will do, this is the vehicle lender, they'll send us an agreement. The agreement says that the debtor will continue to make payments of X amount every month. In exchange, we'll allow them to keep the vehicle. My office will send that out to you with some explanation of what that all means. Now keep in mind, if you want to keep the vehicle, you've got to continue making payments. And you won't be able to keep the vehicle and enter into this agreement unless we sign this reaffirmation agreement. And this reaffirmation agreement is just that. It's reaffirming a debt that would otherwise go away in this bankruptcy. So it's a very careful decision that has to be made. If you can't afford this car, perhaps it's time to give it up and allow it to be taken back. Because once you sign it, you're now obligating yourself to making payments on this again. And if later on down the road, a year passes and things change, and you can't afford to make these payments anymore, you're still liable for it, despite your bankruptcy. So it's a very careful decision you have to make. Now, I was asked recently, well, it wasn't me that borrowed the money for the vehicle. I simply co-signed that debt for my girlfriend. What should I do? Well, first thing is you probably should have better judgment. Don't co-sign a car for a girlfriend. Girlfriends come and go almost as frequently as cars do. Nonetheless, you're still responsible for that. Even if it's not your car, if you co-sign for that, you're a co-borrower, you're just as liable as your girlfriend, your son, your daughter, your grandson. So those are the decisions you have to make early on in the bankruptcy case. Do you take this liability on? Do you continue making payments and be obligated? Or do you just cut your losses and try to get a fresh start? And that's a decision we'll talk more about when time comes.